So KD to the Rockets is crazy. That's why he ain't go to that Heat. They should have gave up more. He definitely worth it, but it's just like how far he is in his career right now. That's the only thing. Like I think he's 37, KD. So it's like how many years he's gonna give you at a high level. So a lot of teams probably don't want to give up a lot.
More on this move.
Absolutely. KD, a bit of a mercenary, if you will, right? This will be his fifth different team, including his fourth in the last just 6 years. But he's yet to find the same success that he had in Golden State. Only played in half of the games with the Nets, went through 3 head coaches in 3 seasons with the Suns, but now finds himself with Ime Udoka in Houston. I was actually with Houston native Chiney Bumake here when we found out he was going there. There was a lot of two-stepping in. We up! We back! We in there! But the odds just completely jumped. They now, the Rockets, have the second best odds. He's like, don't do too much. Let me go there with you because they now have the second shortest odds behind only the Thunder to win the title next year. You think that we need to pump the brakes?
I'm not mad at second shortest. I thought they're like favorites. I'm like, hello, there's a game that's happening today. Okay, period. The way I take this, especially putting my Houston cap on, which I always wear by the way, is that I don't mind this move. A lot of people are questioning why would you do this considering that Kevin Durant is 36, turning 37.
Well, I just said it's just because the age.
I'm not too worried. One first round pick, we see the 10th pick in the 2025 draft. Not too worried about that. More so, this is a guy that fits the need so importantly for the Houston Rockets. 51% shooting off the dribble. That's last season the best in the NBA. He's 53% shooting in mid-range, which again is best in the NBA. If you think about the holes that the Houston Rockets have had, they made it all the way to second in the West, even though they were 27th in off the dribble jumpers, 24th in overall jumpers. Do you know what that shot is? That is Kevin Durant's money shot. This is a team that's 21st in offense. They need that boost, and I think, you said it. They needed that number one option. Well, hello, he is that type of guy. He's a walking 27 points per game that we saw in his tenure for 3 seasons with the Phoenix Suns. Overall, I'm looking at this, I'm like, I'm not mad at it. It's not like it's a whole bunch of firsts. It's not like you lost most of your team. We kept Amen Thompson. We kept Jabari Smith Jr. We kept Alperen Sengun. And a lot of people are very happy that we kept Reek Shepard as well. Houston. I have my solo camera. So I'm good. We do not have a problem.
We have no problem.
We have no problem with this. I have no problem at least over here.
Why is it going to work? Because you were like, when Chiney brought it up.
Well, listen, there might not be another analyst in this network or anywhere that loves defense as much as I do. I love defense. I'm going to talk about it first. I'm going to talk about it every time. Houston hangs their hat on the defensive end, but you still need someone that can get a bucket at will, and that is Kevin Durant. You still need a team, even when your team is getting stops left and right, and that's what Houston does. They needed someone on the team that opponents fear when he has the ball in his hands and when he is on the perimeter. That is Kevin Durant. Defenses will to him and he can find a cutting Alperen Sengun or cutting Thompson for a slam dunk.
One of my favorites.
Setting around him, right? Or Kevin Durant can just go get a bucket. So his ability to score, Chiney said it perfectly. That brings an entirely new element to this Houston team.
And Kevin, you know what's kind of funny? We were prepping for our show, WNBA Countdown, and we found out this news because we're interviewing Chelsea Gray, who checked her phone, and she was like, hey, Chiney, are you okay? Wellness check. I was like, what? You got Kevin Durant? I was like, what?
You're like, what? Well, because it's been a long time going. In fact, the last player to join the Rockets who averaged 25 points in the prior season,
Hold on, what's it?
Tracy McGrady.
Oh, that was my basketball crush growing up.
Came back.
I'm outing myself.
Yeah, feeling it. He's feeling really. Bringing Tim Legler to get his reaction. Tim, obviously, a lot of people blown away about this trade, but I want to know the fit that Kevin Durant has with the Rockets right now. How do you view it?
I think it's a perfect fit. I think when you looked at the Houston Rockets this year, number 2 seed in the West, but I don't think anybody really viewed them as the top threat to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think there was a significant gap there, and the main reason we didn't view the Rockets that way, they didn't have an answer in close games. They didn't have that guy that could basically beat any type of defense that's in front of them. A consistent, efficient alpha at the top of the food chain on their roster offensively. They sort of did it by piecemeal. Well, they've checked that box. Now, Kevin Durant can still do that. Incredible run of efficiency he's had now throughout his career. You put him with great defense, an elite coach. I think the Houston Rockets now have absolutely helped elevate themselves in the Western Conference, where maybe now going into the year, we do consider them the top challenger to OKC.
Stephen A. Smith, I haven't been on the socials because I've been working, but Stephen A., I believe these are your first thoughts on national TV. It comes across your feed that Kevin Durant is a Rocket, and you're thinking what?
I'm ecstatic. I'm ecstatic for the Houston Rockets. I'm ecstatic for him because I think he's back in the championship equation. We keep forgetting that because of the lack of success that the Phoenix Suns have enjoyed, and he has enjoyed over the last several years, and this is one of the greatest players who have ever played the game. He's instant offense, and in his 30s, just like he did in his 20s, still averaging 27 a game, still shooting over 50% from the field, still shooting nearly 40% from three-point range, nearly 90% from the free throw line. He is instant offense. He's 7 feet with a 7'6" wingspan with ball handling skills, a mid-range game, a three-point shot. He can finish in the open court. He can do it all, and he's a bona fide #1 option. So any team would love to have that.
Everyone would love to have KD.
Especially, we're desperate for that because you know that you're exceptionally well coached. You know that you have a lot of good players. You have a young star in Amin Thompson who can do some things. You got a champion in Fred VanVleet. But what you were lacking was that bona fide #1 scoring option. That when all things fell apart, you can hand him the ball and say, take me there. Kevin Durant is that kind of player, and the Houston Rockets know it. And that's why they gave up a Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks, captured the number 10 overall pick along with 5 second-round picks. Because this brother is worth it.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah, and honestly, the odds makers agree because they have catapulted second shortest odds now.
I think this is going to be a good fit.
Next year's NBA championship. Stephen A. is going nowhere because clearly we need your thoughts on Game 7 tonight from OKC, and we'll get that in just a second with our countdown crew. Thanks, SA.
Get 3 times points on travel and dining with Chase Sapphire Reserve.
The bespoke AI Family Hub Plus refrigerator with AI Vision installed.
Let it begin. So,
I honestly feel that's a great fit for him. It's just that how old he is at his age right now. We're going to watch a couple different opinions.
We talk about the NBA, which we're doing on Sunday, Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Are we talking about Game 7 of the NBA Finals? We are not, because today was the day that the Suns agreed to trade Kevin Durant. Joining me from here in Oklahoma City, Tim Bontemps.
Hello.
Joining me also in Oklahoma City, fresh off his pickup game, where I'm told he dominated our producer Jackson Agello, is Ben with me.
Howdy, partner. As usual, Wendy, your reporting is 100% on the money. I was putting the finishing touches on a triple-double performance as news breaks. Our guy Shams, Kevin Durant, headed to Houston.
Every time McMahon plays pickup, he says he has a triple-double.
Jackson, if Jackson's going to put his microphone on, he can confirm.
You might have had a lot of triple-doubles, but a lot of me-bounds out there as well.
Hey, those count too, baby. Those count too.
Those guys who made a career on rebounding their own offensive misses. Okay, Kevin Durant was traded, according to Shams, to Houston for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the number 10 pick in the draft on Wednesday night, and 5 second-round picks. So they got a lot of picks. I don't know how many of them are going to be any good, but they did get a lottery pick in it.
They got their own lottery pick back.
That is right. I didn't think about that till this second.
Yes.
I didn't realize that. That is their pick. So I think it was at least 2 or so months ago when the season ended, it was pretty clear that the Suns' primary decision in the offseason was going to be trading Kevin Durant, even beyond their front office and their head coach. And Bontemps is saying, I don't think they're going to get a great return for him.
Me either.
I just want to tell you that, and the reporting is trading.
But that was a good return. They got Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, 10th round. I mean, it's a 10th round. 10th pick in the first round and 5 second round. That's tough.
Finalist. I don't think Miami's. I don't think it was close. I don't think Miami got it quote unquote outbid. I think Miami.
Well, I mean, Miami did get outbid because they didn't get it.
Well,
This was not a bidding war. These were
that
were like, this was Houston's best offer. They weren't going higher, and the Rockets accomplished their goal of not shortening their runway, but making a win-now move. Jalen Green obviously is the young talent in this deal. Frankly, if we're ranking the Rockets' young talents, I would probably put him somewhere like the maybe 4th or 5th most valuable.
I think he's lower than that.
Maybe even lower. And essentially, let's just be honest, he's the salary filler in this deal. But I love this trade for Houston because this is a team, they didn't shorten their runway. They kept all their young two-way players.
Well, can I stop you right there?
Okay.
And maybe when this comes out, we'll have a good feel for whether or not there's going to be a contract extension. To me, a big part of what happens from Houston's side about whether they quote-unquote won this or not is what they're doing about Kenny's contract. Are they giving...
I anticipate there will be a contract extension.
Okay. Is it 2 years at the full max? Because that's...
I'm not ready to say that. I anticipate there will be a contract extension. That let's just be honest, that's part of it, factoring in that.
It's definitely gonna be a 2-year.
Part of the reason why
Gold Peak.
It's definitely gonna be a 2-year extension.
The top leaves of the tea plant, because they're the best ones, in my opinion.
My apologies to the rest of the leaves.
why the offers were nowhere near the value that the Suns gave up.
Right. So I'm just going to say is before you can take a full picture of where this is for Houston, I think you need to hear what the extension is.
I'm going to assume it's 2 years at a high number, obviously. I don't know that it'll be the full max. But, look, man, this is a young, tough, athletic, scrappy Rockets team that is fresh off being a 2 seed that was desperately in need of a go-to guy. Kevin Durant, even at this age, is a big-time scorer. That's the one thing they needed. Listen, Dylan Brooks, the Rockets were ripped for signing him to that deal. He was a solid signing for them. Honestly, I think he's the kind of guy that Phoenix needs. They need that toughness. They need that defense. But he wasn't going to start with KD there. Amin Thompson's obviously starting now and for a long time.
Well, not only that, but they needed to. KD makes $50 million. Jalen Green makes $33 million. They needed
to make the salary.
$20 more million to go into it. And, all right, but hold on. Bontemps, you said 2 months ago you didn't think the return would be terrific for Durant because of various reasons. What do you think of this trade and where do you thought it would be?
Well, I mean, this isn't a terrific return for Kevin Durant.
Agreed.
This is exactly what we talked about, right? I would say that it's about as good as the Suns could have expected to do in the moment because there just wasn't anything available. I think I would say where things sat by the end of this week, like Friday, I'm not really sure Minnesota was even an option at that point.
Right.
I do not believe they were.
I don't either. The Miami offer, this is better than the Miami offer. This isn't a great offer. But there just wasn't really anything else.
The Miami offer, by the way, I think the key thing about the Miami offer is it didn't have Tyler Hero in it. it didn't have Khalil Ware in it.
No. The Suns were trying to get a blue chip asset.
They want to win now and still have a future. So I feel like the trade was good for them because they didn't give up that much. They gave up Jalen Green, don't get me wrong.
Like they couldn't get Jabari Smith Jr. in this deal. Certainly, like Tari Eason, absolutely not. Reed Shepard, no way.
They didn't even get Cam Whitmore. Like, you know, they got a lottery pick. They got Jalen Green, who is a guy that I don't think has a ton of value around the league. We disagreed. I disagreed with you guys last summer on this contract that the Rockets gave him. It did turn into a piece that we're able to use to get this trade done. But maybe Jalen Green will blow up in the future. But now he's on a team with Bradley Beal and Devin Booker. That fit, for many reasons, doesn't really work.
Well, we'll talk about that in a minute.
No,
just talk about
right.
return.
No, I know. But that is part of the return, right? Dylan Brooks, they could maybe flip Dylan Brooks again. But look, this is to me, it's really what it is. Like, this trade is fine for Phoenix in the situation Phoenix was in terms of they got as much as they could get right now. But the reason I've been saying this is the worst situation in the history of the league for a while is because of the cavernous hole that the Suns are in. And, like, yes, this is the beginning of starting to dig out of the hole, but they're still at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Like, they don't have any flexibility going forward still as of now. Now, that could change, but they're still very expensive. They have Bradley Beal with a no-trade clause who they have to try to move or do something with. They have to figure out if Jalen Green fits. They have to see if they get something for him maybe. Maybe he's there, maybe he's not. But, look, they have 6 picks now. They have this first-round pick. They have these 5 second-round picks. I think they've got 2 or 3 firsts and several seconds now they can trade. My understanding is that they're going to be aggressive this week. They're going to try to retool the roster. I expect this is not the last move they're going to make. So we'll see where this team looks.
Well, this trade itself could expand.
This can't be official till July 6th.
Right. It can't happen until then, so you could have permutations. You could have Jalen Green also for elsewhere at 7, right? But the Suns...
I think it's more likely Devin Brooks gets free rather than Jalen Green.
Dylan Brooks. You almost said Devin Brooks.
You said Devin Brooks, and I'm like, huh?
Oh, my God. Sorry.
Hold on, don't aggregate that.
Well, look, to me, what the Suns... We're sitting here talking about the Thunder in the finals. At least we're all here for the Thunder in the finals, right? The trade that set up everything that's happening right now with Oklahoma City was the Paul George trade to the Clippers.
Yep.
And after the Paul George trade to the Clippers, what did the Thunder do? They took that trade and they kept making more trades. And after a couple weeks, they made like 15 trades. They had a whole pile full of stuff, and that started off the path back to where they are now. Now, obviously, they started with a bazillion more things to trade out of that trade than...
I'm the guy sitting next to your girl in a kiss cam, and this game just got a lot more interesting.
Sheila? Mom.
And if you don't have the right home coverage, you might have to kiss your savings goodbye.
Then the Suns are getting out of this. But to me, trying to reroute Dylan Brooks for stuff, I'd be trying to reroute Jalen Green for stuff. I'd be trying to start that process to have some stuff to build around Devin Booker going forward.
Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal. I
mean, Grayson Allen's on a bad contract. I don't think they're getting anything for him.
At
Royce
all.
O'Neal is a guy that you could maybe turn into stuff. But, like, this is what the Suns have to start doing. They have to start digging.
Well, here's the thing. Bradley Beal, let's just do some math here. Bradley Beal, I'm going to just do it as Bradley Beal's making $53 million.
We got Window writing down numbers.
Ooh,
Devin Booker, $53 million.
Yeah.
Jalen Green, $33 million. In theory, they all play the same position.
That is what,
that's $139 million.
Of shooting guard. Of shoot first guards.
Dylan Brooks plays the wing. I guess he's more of a 3 than a 2.
$161 million for four wing players.
Okay, that's okay.
That's mad bread for 3 shooting guards that are all not going to play at the same time.
He's another wing. That's $178 million for 5 wing players.
What position does Royce O'Neal play?
He's kind of before, but let's call him a wing player.
He's an undersized
$188 million for 6 wing players.
Okay, I mean, you need wings in the NBA. Don't get me wrong, but none of those guys can really play point guard.
I mean, listen, Jalen Green is a complete overlap in terms of talent. in terms of skill set, I should say, with Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. Like, he's a total, like, he does not fit. You know, they've got to try to figure out a way to reroute him. Obviously, they'd like to.
They talking bad about Jalen Green, like he's horrible. He good. He's just a young player.
That doesn't make sense.
Ups and downs.
You can argue is what they need. They need
Fuck, is this year 3 or 4 for him?
You know, they need gritty role players around Devin Booker, but Green doesn't fit there. Green's in this deal because of the salary.
All right. So they've got a lopsided roster. They have the number 10 pick in the draft. Reasonable to guess that they're going to draft a center there, because
no. Whatever they do, please, Phoenix Suns, if you're listening, draft the best player. Don't draft some positional fit on the roster. Whoever the best player is, draft the player.
And Ishbia's mandate is always everything to win now, everything to win now, everything to win now. You've got to get off of that. You're not winning this season.
I haven't heard them say that. I haven't heard them say that.
Ishbia has said that over and over and over.
No.
Oh, yes.
I haven't heard them say that they're not gonna try to win this season.
No, that's what I'm saying. All they have said is win now, everything to win.
So why would I assume it's gonna be different?
Look, I'm not.
I don't. I'm saying I'm trying to offer some unsolicited advice that, dude, you've got to take a 3 to 5 year view here in this. Like, it can't be
rebuild.
Nowhere is it written that they must do that.
Should we 100% assume they're going to draft at 10?
No.
I don't think we should assume that either.
I don't think we assume anything. Again, Ishbia's.
Maybe they'll trade number 10 for 3 firsts in 12 years.
Ishbia's whole philosophy is everything to maximize your chances of winning now, and it is crippling that franchise's chance of ever winning long term.
They're going to extend Devin Booker for 2 years and $150 million in the next 2 weeks. They're going to do that.
Look, the mandate is clear, right? And the mandate is clear coming out of this trade, which is the goal is to retool the roster around Devin Booker with what they have available. Now,
by the way, I haven't even brought up Ryan Dunn, who's their best young player. He plays the wing too.
Yeah.
Well, look, that's all fine. They also just don't look. This trade in a vacuum, people are going to go, man, the Suns got nothing for KD. There was nothing available for KD for a variety of reasons. This is as much as they were going to get. You could argue they should just sit on it and try to bend fences or whatever. I don't think that makes sense either. As I have said many times, I would be trading Devin Booker and just starting over because they have to start over. That's not what they're going to do. That's fine. So, we will have a better picture. You asked about the return of the trade. The truth is, as you said, the trade can expand between now and July 6th. I think there's little doubt it's going to expand in some form between now and July 6th. And we will have a much better sense a week from now on the eve of free agency of what this trade looks like and where the Suns are based off of what they do this week. But, as Tim said, based off of the Matt Ishbia tenure with the franchise over the last 2.5 years, so now the experts are out of the way, so maybe it'll be different. The expectation should be...
It won't be different.
The expectation should be that this team is going to be very aggressive this week, is going to make trades, and is going to try to improve the roster with win-now moves.
Yes.
We will see where it lands. We will see if Bradley Beal's on the team. We'll see if Jalen Green's on the team. We'll see if Dylan Brooks is on the team. The only thing that I would say is certain is that Devin Booker will be on the team. And Devin Booker will get that extension. And then we will see what the Suns look like around him going into next season. But sitting here right now, if the Suns do something that makes them one of the 6 or 8 best teams in the West over the next 2 weeks, I will be the first to say I am incorrect about this. It's hard for me to see how they're going to get from where they are right now, which is maybe the 13th or 14th best team in the West, to a playoff team.
Listen, it's going to be a tough climb for the Suns to return to relevancy in the Western Conference. Simple as that. And the Rockets they've benefited from it. You know, to have this 10th overall pick that they can use to get a guy who I think is a great immediate fit, short-term fit, but again, they didn't give up a ton of future assets. In fact, they still have
most of their fit
picks.
Yep.
And those are of extreme value.
Well, that's the thing. When they did the deal last summer with Brooklyn, where they got the 2 firsts and the swap, the concept was, oh, they're going to trade those for Durant. They end up getting Durant for 1/3 in that stuff.
Yeah, and they also have the Mavs 29 pick out of that deal. So it's really 3 picks and swap. And by the way, what was the most valuable asset that the Grizzlies got in the Desmond Bane deal?
Next year's Suns pick.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah, I don't think the Grizzlies are disappointed with this development. One more thing before we pivot to the Rockets. And please, if you think I'm flawed in thinking, please step forward. Should the Suns just have ignored what KD wanted and traded him to the Warriors at the trade deadline?
Yes. Yeah, honestly, yes.
Because wouldn't they have had Jimmy Butler? I mean, would they not have had Jimmy Butler and Jonathan Kuminga? Am I wrong in saying that? They would have had those.
You have better info here than I do, so I'm legitimately asking. Were the Warriors willing to do that with KD saying, "Don't get me"?
No. The Warriors were the ones who backed out of it. You're right.
Okay. So.
But you're correct on that. But
look, if the Suns have been able to do that trade, that was a much better return than the trade they got now. There's no question.
Okay, let me ask you this: should they have ignored what KD wanted and did the deal with Minnesota?
Again, that's
the problem. These are all sure, if you could just put in a trade machine, we're going to send Kevin Durant somewhere and get stuff back that's better. Yeah, that's great. But the other teams involved here are part of the trade. It's not like the other team was saying, please give us Kevin Durant even though he doesn't want to come here.
Yeah, and I think it would have been a bad idea for Minnesota to ignore KD's.
Well, that trade also just didn't, again, like we talked about before, a Rudy Gobert trade for Kevin Durant did not make sense for Minnesota. Despite what people might say about the value of Rudy Gobert and Kevin Durant, it would have made the Bulls worse. So
this to me was always, Houston was always the place that made the most sense.
Yes, as the process played out, the Rockets were the team where it worked because of
what I would say to your point, Brian, is and you were all over this story in February, so you should correct me if I'm wrong on this for sure. But if the Suns had worked with Kevin a little better in February and greased the skids to get him to Golden State in February, that would have been a much better outcome than this outcome for the Suns. But short of that happening, right? That is now off the board. You look at the options available now. The options available now, this is the best that they had, which is the best of a very, mediocre lot. And it's, again, to me, it's less about the merits of this specific trade than it is the all-encompassing nature of everything that's gone wrong in the past couple of years. To Van's point, of just the continual throwing assets down the drain repeatedly and all these various decisions that have all led up to this, which is why I am very curious to see what the next couple of weeks look like because of where it could land.
Let me amend my point. KD controlled his last 2 trades. He controlled getting himself to Phoenix, and he controlled blocking or disengaging the Warriors and the Bulls. Correct. To some level. Yet Phoenix paid a massive premium to get him, and then had to sell him for less because of the lack of a competitive market. So they paid a huge price in a non-competitive market the first time around, and then paid, sold low for the same reason. 2.5 years ago.
Made a big splash. There was a lot of sizzle. There was little substance in terms of winning. KD won a playoff series in Phoenix, and then they had to sell. I don't know. I'm not gonna say pennies on the dollar, but certainly change on the dollar.
I'm just saying, when he came to Phoenix, it was the only place he wanted to go. He said, he told the Nets, I only wanted to be traded for the Suns.
And they gave up 4 picks and 3 swaps and 2 good young players.
And Cam Johnson.
Yeah, that would be an immense haul, and this is a fraction of that.
One more thing. 2018. You remember when the Suns traded for Dylan Brooks? But
yeah, that's right.
They thought it was Marshawn Brooks.
Yeah, no, I don't know where Marshawn is, but Dylan is definitely going to Phoenix this time around.
Well, maybe not. We'll see.
I think Marshawn might be playing in China. I'm not sure.
All right, I just remembered that
Yeah, no, this is the Rockets only had one Brooks. There might have been some confusion if there was other guys involved. But there's only one Brooks.
whatever that was. I don't even remember who else was involved. I just remember it was a 3-team trade.
Kelly Oubre was involved.
Wasn't Austin Rivers involved? I don't know.
Yeah, whatever it was, I think Woj reported. I remember Woj reporting. Dylan Brooks, blah, 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 Dylan Brooks and later. And then, like, 5 minutes later, he's like, oh, correction, it's actually Marshawn Brooks.
And his sons are like, correction.
Wait, I want to correct that correction. Oh, my God. All right, anyway, the Rockets. As we talked about for months, I don't think the Rockets wanted to trade for a 37-year-old player. But they got the price to a point here. I mean, just so you know, the Rockets
didn't want to pay a premium.
Real is gold. That's my motto. It's also the motto of my favorite team, which is convenient. Gold PT. Real is gold.
For
Yeah,
36.
Right.
This is the thing I was going to say before. The Suns have been waiting for weeks for somebody to blink, and nobody did.
So why make the deal?
I think because they decided they had to move forward, and nobody was going to budge. It's been weeks, and like this, none of this has, I think, changed for a while. Like Miami's offer, I don't believe was changing. They're not putting in the more attractive stuff. I don't think Houston's offer was changing. I don't think they were putting in the more attractive stuff.
Miami had an before, because I'm starting to see people say, oh my gosh, the Heat lost. Miami had a chance to make a better offer at the trade deadline and elected not to make it. And they had a chance to make a better offer. Now, maybe they couldn't outbid Houston anyway, but I'm just telling you.
No, they could have outbid Houston if they chose to. They chose not to. The Heat actively chose not to give up. The Heat actively chose to get Andrew Wiggins and a first-round pick in February, then trade picks with stuff to get Kevin Durant in February. They made that active decision. And by the way, they then lost by $1 billion to the Cavs in the first round of the playoffs. Like, this Heat team giving up future assets for a 37-year-old Kevin Durant didn't make any sense at all.
No, whereas I do think it does make a lot of sense for Houston, this particular trade. Not giving up the farm for Kevin Durant. And again, their whole thing was they didn't want to make a deal that shortened the runway, but they knew they needed a go-to guy. They knew that was the one massive missing piece. But they've got a chance, I think, to be, we can play semantics on contender, but this was a 2 seed that gave the Warriors a very competitive series, as I like this out, is like young, athletic, tough, and now they're adding one of the most skilled, a guy who's still one of the most skilled players in the league. I love this move for the Rockets.
Look, the Rockets essentially have taken Jalen Green out of their lineup, an inefficient, not all that great scorer, who on this team.
Well, he was sometimes good. He was great about 1.5 out of.
He had moments, but he was not a player that was good enough to be the best perimeter scorer on a team that's trying to win.
This playoff series, one big splash game, and the rest was that's kind of Jalen Green.
And their team was an excellent defensive team that was mediocre to bad on offense a lot of the time, and they grinded out a lot of wins, right? They now have added Kevin Durant to that team, and essentially just replacing Jalen Green. They'll have Fred VanVleet back. They can, assuming they don't make any other trades, which, by the way, they have kept virtually all their assets, so they could go make another big trade if they want.
Yeah, and by the way, they were probably going to trade the 10th pick, no matter what. They were probably going to trade. They didn't have room for another young asset on this team. Obviously, if there's a guy at 10 that they were in love with, and like, oh, my God, they would have done it. They couldn't play their lottery pick last year.
Right.
So
this barely played. Yeah.
This 10th, and they couldn't get him, and they wouldn't trade him either. This pick was probably not going to go to Houston anyway. So yeah, they give a lottery pick here, but they didn't even value that pick.
But again, it's a lottery pick they got by making a great deal with Brooklyn last year.
By the way, let's just do this right now. Let's just do this. Since I've got a pen, I'm writing stuff down.
There we go.
I like it.
Let's write down how many things that the Rockets have that they value more than Jalen Green, the number 10 pick.
Okay. Amin Thompson. Let's just,
Hold on. He's got it right.
Got it. Keep going.
Amin Thompson.
Yep.
Tari
Jabari
Eason.
Smith. Tari Eason. Reed Shepard. Alperen Şengün. He honestly should be higher on that
This
list.
is no order on these. No order on these.
Reed Shepard.
The other two Suns picks that they have.
Yep.
I think that's. I don't
What
know.
about the Mavericks? What about the Mavericks?
The Mavericks pick, yes.
Probably. Although the value on that over the last couple of years is the Mavs have traded Luka, won the lottery.
I still think people would take a swing on Dallas at the moment, given where Dallas is at.
All right. What about Fred VanVleet?
They love Fred VanVleet.
Okay, I'm putting him on.
Fred is.
He's the
You don't
steady
think the
captain.
Suns would have taken Fred VanVleet? I'm putting him on there.
No,
All
for
right.
sure.
Oh God, Fred VanVleet's exactly the kind of point guard the Suns need.
That's a minimum of 8 or 9 assets.
Okay.
Well, and look, the other thing about trading Jalen Green, it probably opens up minutes for Reed Shepard, who last year, and Reed Shepard was not in the rotation. He was hurt at the time. He hadn't really been in the rotation. When I went down there and wrote this story about the Rockets are primed to make a big splash, but they're going to be. It's a very cautious approach. I was told they think Reed Shepard might be the most talented offensive player on that roster.
Well, yes.
Not anymore. Kevin Durant is now.
Well, but look, I also think. I mean, again, if you're talking about knock-on effects of this roster, of this trade, let's just say the Rockets are who they are, basically, right?
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first.
Is that your car?
Yeah.
Like to check your sunroof is closed first, before going through the car wash. So check Allstate first and save when you click or call.
I really like Jabari Smith. I think he's a really good player as a forward who can shoot it and guard multiple positions. Moving Dylan Brooks out of there in particular, move Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green out. Without more minutes for Jabari Smith to play, his minutes would sometimes fluctuate last year. More minutes and more of a role for Amin Thompson, even more than what he had before. He's obviously a focal point for them going forward. There's more minutes for Tari Eason going forward. There's arguably even more minutes for Cam Whitmore going forward, who's an interesting player. He's been up and down in the football. He's into the G League some. He's had some public battles with Nino Udoka.
Second apron stuff here. The Suns are still in the second apron. In another construction of this trade, they probably could have asked for Cam Whitmore in this trade. But they couldn't get him in this trade because they were taking that too much money.
Right.
Like, I'm not sure exactly. Just to be clear, I don't have the exact reporting on the construction, but like this, even if they were willing to give Cam Whitmore,
They couldn't have done all 3 of those guys for good.
Right. So like there's where the second apron bites you. And I think the point is, whether let's throw the 2 Suns picks they have out because maybe those picks will neither will be the top 10 because the Suns can look you in the eye and say we traded for the top 10 pick.
Yeah.
At the very bottom line, they probably didn't trade for 5 preferred assets.
I'm talking young players. Young players.
5 preferred young players.
Yeah, they're 5
and they got
valued
Kevin
young
Durant.
players.
They didn't trade any of their really good two-way young players. Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason, Amin Thompson. Those guys are completely.
And
don't ask.
And that's what the Suns were. That's what the Suns have been hoping for. They've been hoping for somebody, whether it's Miami to put in Khalil Ware, whether it's Houston to put in one of these guys, whether it's Minnesota to want to do something, or San Antonio to whatever. Name the team, right? They were hoping somebody would go. We got to get Kevin Durant and jump in and do what the Suns, not to the same degree the Suns did, but to do what the Suns did 2.5 years ago and overpay. But everybody saw the situation for what it was. Kevin Durant is a distressed asset who's 37, who has an injury history, who's going to want a ton of money, who, by the way, has won 2 playoff series in the last 6 years. So I think there is some question about the level of winning he can drive still. Now, I do think Houston is the perfect place for him to go. A bunch of young, athletic dudes around him, an offense that is pretty isolation heavy. They're going to let Kevin be able to have the ball and operate and work around these guys. Gives Alperen Şengün more room to operate inside. But I think basketball-wise, this was easily the best fit by a mile, with the coach he's got a relationship with and likes. Like, I do think it's a very good trade for the Rockets. And look, if there's a big fish,
I think it's a
available
great trade for the
between
Rockets.
now and the trade deadline in February, they could still go get a guy because they have all the stuff to trade.
I don't think the Rockets are hoping for a big fish to become available. Their whole thing was they wanted their young core to be able to grow, and they.
Well, listen, I'm not saying.
I never really. I'll be honest. I never really bought the belief they were selling in Jalen Green. Whatever. He was down the list of the guys who I think had the most value to the Rockets. By the way, just in terms of fit, Jackson's performance as a producer, they much better than his pickup performance. Here you go. Rockets, 7th in isolations per game last season, but 27th in points per ISO